Spoiler alert, Jesus is really good with the scriptures.
Please be my eyes for the things I can't see. Please be my ears for the things I can't hear. Please be my guide in the places I ain't supposed to be. Dear Lord, watch over me. Please be my eyes for the things.
Jesus is really good with the scriptures. For the people in Jesus' time, it's all in the way that Jesus is speaking. For us, we can figure this out in the way that the New Testament is written. Okay, so to set it up, I made this diagram. These are different time periods. From the beginning of creation all the way up until Jesus' resurrection, that's in the middle. So you have where John calls him the Word. He's basing it off of what he's doing with the Old Testament. The second time period is just the time period that the New Testament was being constructed. So that's when Matthew, Mark, Luke, John wrote. The next time period is after that. That's about 2,000 years. In that time period, numbers are being put on the scriptures, language barriers are being broke, and ultimately the King James Version is what you're going to end up with. So this time period goes all the way up through the 20th century. And the last time period, that's us. Okay, the reason why I'm showing you this is because there are two different ways to figure out how good Jesus is with the scriptures. For the people in Jesus' time, it's all in the way that Jesus is speaking. For us, we can figure this out in the way that the New Testament is written. And I'm going to show you those two ways. Okay, so the first way is if you were standing there with Jesus. The Pharisees are asking about the law. Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? Jesus responds by not talking about the law, but mentioning Moses. So if you were good with the scripture and you hear divorce and you hear Moses, kind of sounds like Jesus is talking about Moses. Jesus really drives it in with what he says next, because what he says next is for the hardness of your heart. Does that sound familiar? If you good with the scriptures and you hear Moses, you hear divorce, and you hear hardness of your heart, it'll send you to one particular chapter in all of the Old Testament. You can find this yourself. And if you want to, just press pause. We'll wait. And then if you find it, come. So where do you find Moses? Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4 is not only going to be the first time you hear God telling Moses about hardening Pharaoh's heart, but it's also going to be the exact chapter in which you find out the circumstances surrounding Moses' divorce.